Now, right off the bat, we're breaking down a deeply sensitive and incredibly urgent public service announcement by PSA. It focuses on the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls crisis in Canada, often referred to as MMIWG. Yes, it's a heavy topic, but it is absolutely crucial that it gets our full attention. So let's just dive right in.
Okay, let's start here with this quote. Every Indigenous woman deserves to be safe, respected, and protected. This is basically the fundamental moral baseline for everything we're about to cover today. It's a foundational human right? It's simple, it's direct, and honestly, it represents the absolute bare minimum standard for how anyone should be treated in our society. But we actually have to establish this baseline because it throws the true reality of the situation into such devastating relief.
The unspoken reality. Because despite that fundamental right to safety, what's actually happening in Canada is starkly different. There's this massive, tragic disconnect between the safety these women absolutely deserve and the violence they're actually facing. We really have to confront this unspoken reality that the source material brings to light, looking way past the ideals of safety and staring directly at the ground truth of what's happening to these women and girls.
Thousands. In Canada, thousands of Indigenous women and girls have gone missing or have been murdered. Just let the gravity of that word hang in the air for a second. We aren't talking about one or two isolated incidents here. We are talking about thousands of lives. Stripping away all the outside noise really helps us focus on the staggering scale of the loss that this PSA highlights.
And this brilliantly illustrates the systemic gap we're dealing with. On one side, you have cases that were totally ignored and investigations that were just painfully slow. And on the other side, the real human cost. Families left completely alone, waiting endlessly for justice. Many are still waiting right now. And tragically, as the PSA points out, some families never got answers at all. It shows you exactly where the system is failing them.
A crisis of violence. So what this builds to is a highly specialized crisis. We really have to understand the specific nature of this threat, because it disproportionately targets one exact demographic. The source material is explicitly clear on this. Indigenous women face violence at rates way higher than other women in Canada. It's a targeted crisis, and that means it requires a targeted understanding from us.
But you know, statistics alone don't even come close to telling the whole story. Who are they? Their daughters, their aunties, mothers, sisters, and friends. We absolutely must look past the numbers. These statistics represent real women who had dreams, who had futures and families, women who deeply mattered to their communities, and whose families still carry an unimaginable amount of pain.
So the crucial point here is this. This isn't just history. It's happening right now. It's honestly very easy to distance ourselves from difficult topics by just pretending they only happened in the past. But this is an ongoing crisis affecting real communities today. This is not some closed chapter in a history book. It is an active, current emergency that demands our awareness right now.
As his PSA uses some incredibly powerful imagery to convey this ongoing pain, specifically focusing on an empty chair sitting in soft shadows. It represents this profound, symbolic loneliness. Every single missing woman leaves behind a permanent void. It's an empty chair at a dinner table. It's an empty chair at a graduation ceremony. They leave behind people who still love them, people who are still waiting, and people who fundamentally deserve answers.
Roots of the injustice. To truly understand this crisis, we really have to look beneath the surface. The source material shifts our focus to the roots of the injustice, the systemic foundation that literally enables this violence to keep happening. Like, why are the investigations so slow? Why are so many cases ignored? The PSA outlines the underlying societal structures that we absolutely must confront if we're ever going to understand the why behind all of this.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly the roots are identified: stereotypes, racism, colonialism. We need to understand the real-world impact of these three massive, systemic issues. They are the exact elements that dictate how society views Indigenous women, and critically, how authorities handle their cases. This right here is the structural foundation of the entire crisis.
The path forward: learn, listen, and act. Thankfully, as his PSA doesn't just leave us sitting with the tragedy, it actually provides a framework for moving forward. The path to change requires a shift in our own behavior, breaking things down into clear, achievable steps. It focuses heavily on how we can take this information and use it to foster real, lasting change in our own communities.
So it works like a logical progression. Step 1 is awareness, which just means acknowledging the harsh reality of the MMIWG crisis. Step 2 is respect,
truly valuing these women's lives and honoring their family's pain. And step 3 is the ultimate goal: change. Look, we obviously can't fix everything overnight, but these are the fundamental milestones required for any real societal progress.
Let's see how this builds directly into personal accountability. The PSA demands 3 actionable steps from every single one of us. Learn, listen, act. Learn the actual facts. Listen closely to indigenous voices so we can hear their experiences and the real impacts of those systemic roots. And finally, act by speaking up. Because as the source material reminds us, every single voice matters, and every woman matters.
Which brings us to this defining message. It's a powerful statement that serves as both a plea and a demand. No more stolen sisters. The ultimate goal presented in this tribute is ensuring that every single indigenous woman is valued, that she is protected, and that those who have been lost are never, ever forgotten. Together, according to the source, this is a future we can absolutely help secure.
So, we've unpacked the devastating reality, the systemic roots, and the clear steps forward outlined in Isa's PSA. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought, directly inspired by the source's call to action. How will you use your voice so our sisters are never forgotten? Remember the real humanity behind all these statistics, and let's turn this understanding into meaningful, real-world action.